I'm Dr. Emily Law. I'm coming to you live from Seattle, Washington, here at Seattle Children's Research Institute. I'm super excited to be chatting with you on the American Migraine Foundation Facebook Live today. We're going to be talking about migraine and sleep problems in teenagers. I'm really looking forward to being able to talk about your questions about migraine and sleep in teenagers, so please feel free to write your questions in the comment section. I'm here today with my friends Sandra and Joy, who are going to be reading your questions so that we'll be able to get to those as we're talking. I'm going to start by introducing myself. My name is Dr. Emily Law. I'm a pediatric psychologist by training. I spend most of my time here at Seattle Children's Research Institute conducting research about the impact of migraine on teens and their families. I also provide clinical service in the pain medicine clinic at Seattle Children's Hospital, where I provide assessment and behavioral treatment to kids who have chronic migraine and other pain conditions. I spend a lot of my work life focused on thinking about how can I understand the experiences of my patients with migraine, and how can I develop behavioral treatment strategies to help them feel better and help them participate in their lives. And I'm really excited to be here on the American Migraine Foundation Facebook page today to talk with you about the importance of sleep in kids with migraine. I thought I would start by talking about the different, that migraine happens in teenagers. A lot of times when I tell people about what I do for a living, they're surprised to hear that teens can get migraine, and yes, this is true. Teens can get migraine just as often as adults, and it can be just as debilitating. So many of the teens that I care for in our pain medicine clinic here at Seattle Children's Hospital experience migraine nearly every day and have trouble doing many of the activities that are important to them and to their families. So they have trouble getting to school, they have trouble doing homework, they're not able to spend as much time with friends as they'd like, they don't participate in the sports that they want, and a lot of them also have sleep problems. And so I really became interested in understanding more about sleep problems in teens with migraine, and really thinking about what can we do to help this problem, because I was suspicious that if I can get my patients sleeping better, I thought I could probably help them to have fewer headaches. And so we can talk a little bit about sleep problems in teens with migraine. For those of you who are just joining or just tuning in, my name is Dr. Emily Law. I'm a pediatric psychologist here from Seattle, Washington at Seattle Children's Research Institute, talking about sleep problems in teens with migraine. There's lots of research showing that sleep problems are pretty common in teens with migraine. In fact, it's among the most common co-occurring conditions. And problems with sleep tend to increase or get worse as teens experience more frequent migraine. The types of sleep problems that teens with migraine can have are really variable. So they can range from sleep apnea, which is a type of breathing problem that happens during sleep, to nightmares or sleepwalking, to insomnia, which is what I see most commonly in my patients in our pain clinic. Many of my patients with migraine are coming in complaining of insomnia symptoms. Insomnia symptoms include when you have trouble falling asleep at night, so it takes you a really long time to fall asleep at night. When you have trouble sleeping through the night, so you wake up frequently throughout the night and can't fall back asleep. When you wake too early in the morning, raise your hand if that happened to you this week. That happened to me today. And also, you have to have some kind of daytime impairment related to these symptoms. So something is not going well for you in your day because you didn't sleep well the night before. So that could be problems staying awake throughout the day, problems paying attention, problems participating in activities that are important to you. I want to recommend that if you have a teen who you think may have a problem with migraine, I really would recommend that you take them to your primary care provider or to their neurologist or to a neurologist to get that evaluated. Migraine symptoms in teenagers can look pretty similar to adults, but there can be some differences. Migraine in teens can often have pain on both sides of the head rather than one side, for example, or the symptoms may resolve a little bit more quickly in teens than what you would expect in adults for a migraine episode. And again, if you're curious, I wonder if my teen is having a migraine problem, it's a great idea to take them to your primary care or to a neurologist to get that evaluated. And the same goes for if you think your teen might have a sleep problem. Like if you're listening to me right now and wondering, gosh, I wonder if my teen has insomnia, or gosh, my teen really snores so loud I can hear them even when the door in their bedroom is closed. What is that about? I would encourage you to bring that up with your child's pediatrician or a neurologist to figure out whether it might be worthwhile to have your child evaluated by a sleep medicine specialist. They are the experts who can help to figure out whether your child has a sleep problem or a migraine problem or both problems, and can help you figure out a treatment plan that will get your teen feeling better. Again, let's answer a few questions. So Joy's telling me we've got some questions already.
It's a question from Daniel, and Daniel
Hi,
says,
Daniel.
My wife and I passed our migraines on to our 11-year-old son. While I average 4.5 hours of sleep, my wife and kids average 8.5 to 9 hours. At what point would sleep impact child migraines?
Oh, this is Daniel. So thank you for this excellent question. So your question is, you have migraine and you're not sleeping very much at night. And it sounds like your teen also has migraine, and it sounds like getting about 8 to 9 hours of sleep. Is that right, Joy? Yeah. So this is a great question. A lot of people are surprised to know that teenagers really should be aiming for about 9 to 10 hours of sleep per night based on their age. And most teens in America, whether or not they have migraine, are not getting anywhere close to that. So I'm encouraged that your teen is already getting between 8 to 9 hours of sleep. But you could think about whether it's possible to arrange your schedule to bump that up to make an opportunity available for your teen to sleep somewhere in the range of 9 to 10 hours a night, to be getting in that range of what we would expect to be good sleep duration or length of sleep for teenagers. And that's actually my number one tip for getting a good night's sleep, is make an opportunity or help your teen figure out how to arrange their schedule so that they have the opportunity to sleep for 9 to 10 hours a night. So that might mean thinking about homework schedules. It might mean thinking about how can you make your morning routine a little bit shorter so they can sleep in as late as possible. A lot of times my teenage patients are really into that idea of anything they can do to sleep in a little bit later is really great. So that's my first sleep tip, is make an opportunity to get 9 to 10 hours of sleep a night. You also asked, Daniel, can you remind me, Joy, at what point does sleep become a problem?
Yeah, it was what point he said you answered your question.
Oh, I did? Great, Daniel, thanks so much. When you're thinking about at what point does sleep become a problem for a teenager, I would think about if you feel like your teen is not able to do things during the day time because they're sleeping poorly. That would be a signal to me that sleep is probably becoming a problem, and it might be worth taking them to your pediatrician to get that checked out. Yeah. Oh, we have another question. Joy says, great, this is awesome. Keep it coming, guys.
Yeah, we have lots of people writing in. And
great.
Diane says her daughter has chronic daily migraine and clusters, and she has status migrainosus. She can sleep 10 to 12 hours a night and still take 2 to 4 hour naps every day. She's always slept a lot, but when she doesn't get enough sleep, her migraines are definitely worse. Mm-hmm. So at what point is getting a good night's sleep important for teens with migraine?
That's a great question. Thank you for bringing that up. For me personally, I think getting a good night's sleep is really critical for all teens with migraine. There is research showing that in teens and adults, if you get a poor night's sleep, you're actually more likely to have a migraine or headache the next day. And if you get a poor night's sleep, that migraine or headache that you get the next day is going to be more severe. It will hurt more and be more disabling. So there's more and more research being done that shows that a poor night's sleep is a really common trigger for the onset of migraine, and that if you're chronically getting a poor night's sleep, that can actually contribute to the persistence of a migraine problem over time. So for me, I think if you guys get one thing from watching this Facebook Live today, one message from me or take home would be really take a look at how your teen with migraine is sleeping and think about, is there anything you can do to help them to sleep better? So we talked about tip number 1 being make an opportunity for 9 to 10 hours of sleep a night. Tip number 2 is to help your teen have the same bedtime and wake time every day. So to keep a normal sleep routine. So to get them to going to bed and waking up within about the same hour every day. So that would mean no really long sleep-ins on the weekends. My patients are never really happy to hear that. But the cool thing about sleep is that it's actually a learned behavior, especially when you're talking about something like insomnia symptoms. Your body can learn to fall asleep quickly and to sleep well through the night by the things that you do around your sleep, by your sleep habits. So a really great way to signal to your body that it's time to sleep and in the morning that it's time to wake up is to go to bed and wake up around the same time every day. So that's my second sleep tip, is keep a normal bedtime and wake time routine. Try not to deviate by more than like 60 to 90 minutes on either end.
We have a comment from Laura, and she says, I was bedbound with a migraine today, so how relevant. I've been dealing with chronic migraine since I was 11 years old. So that's just a comment. And we have some additional questions coming in. And
can I actually, Laura's comment actually segues really nicely into my number 3 sleep tip, which is, as much as possible, use your bed only for sleep. I have many patients coming to me who have had migraine for a long time, just like you, Laura. That even they're coming to me as teenagers, like they're 15, 16 years old, but a lot of them, when you talk to them about their stories, they've had migraine since they were 11, since they were 10, since they were 8, and they've spent a lot of time in bed coping with their migraine. And I'm sorry to hear that you've had a bad day, and I really hope things are starting to turn around for you. And I'm glad you're here tuning in and listening today. I'm happy we're able to connect. It can be helpful if you're having a hard time sleeping at night. It can be helpful to try to figure out how to cope with your migraine in a way that lets you keep your bed as a sacred place that you only use for sleep at nighttime. And that's because, again, sleep is a learned behavior. So your body learns what to do when you get into bed at night based on all the different kinds of things that you do in your bed. So if you're spending a lot of time during the day awake, resting in bed with a migraine, when you get into bed at night to go to sleep, your body may be confused. It may not know whether you're supposed to be awake and resting or whether you're actually supposed to be asleep at night. And so a good way to kind of unwind that is to use your bed only for sleep. And so this would mean that if you need to rest because of a migraine during the day, figuring out, is there any other place in your house that you could rest comfortably that's not your bed? Or even if there's not another room in your house that you could rest comfortably, is there any other space in your bedroom where you could rest comfortably? So can you put a comfortable chair in there? Or would you have room to put a couch in there? I have a lot of my patients hang out on beanbag chairs. This isn't, I would say for parents, this isn't a reason that you need to go and buy your kid a bunch of new furniture for their room. When I talk to this with my patients, a lot of times teens try to angle for, oh, I want this new furniture, from IKEA or whatever. Usually families, you have to be kind of creative to figure this out. But you can use things you already have. And that can help to prepare your body so that when you get into bed at sleep, your body will learn, oh, the only thing I do in this bed is sleep, and it'll help you fall asleep faster at night over time and sleep easier through the night. Let's answer a few more questions.
All right, so Diane says her daughter has a sleep aid, and she has had a sleep study done, but she doesn't get more than 2 to 3 hours of REM sleep. What else can we do to help her?
That's a great question, Diane. So it sounds like you've probably been working with a sleep medicine specialist. because you're talking about your daughter had a sleep study, and it sounds like you know quite a bit about the details of her sleep. So my top tip would be for you would be, you know, if you think there's not there might be other options that your doctor might have for you, it would be worth talking to them about. In terms of behavioral strategies, I would think about, does your daughter have that opportunity for 9 to 10 hours of sleep a night? Is your daughter using a normal bedtime and wake time, you know, every day, even on the weekends? Is she doing other things in her bed during the day? So we talked about, you know, rest in bed during the day being really common for teens with migraine, but teens do all sorts of things in their bed. Maybe they're doing homework, maybe they're on their phones, maybe they're hanging out, you know, eating dinner. I have lots of teens eating dinner in their beds these days. So really thinking about helping her to figure out how to minimize the time awake that she's spending in her bed could help her to feel better. And you could also think about my number 4 sleep tip. So my 4th sleep tip is no electronics in the bedroom. And I don't know if this is something that your daughter is doing, or if any of you other parents or teens in the audience do this. I know I'm guilty of this from time to time. Electronics in the bedroom are a problem for sleep because the light that comes from the electronics is activating to your brain, and it goes against all the good work that we're doing to try to train our bodies to be ready for sleep at bedtime. Electronics are also disruptive for sleep because you may fall asleep easily, but if you have that cell phone or your iPad dinging at you all night with text messages or alerts or Facebook messages or whatever it is that's coming through, that can disrupt your sleep, and it ultimately is not helpful. For many of my patients, I find the key to getting electronics out of the bedroom is helping them to get a real alarm clock. So a really common barrier to getting electronics out of the bedroom is, will I use my cell phone for my alarm clock, or I'm using my iPad for my alarm clock? You know, raise your hand if that's true for you. I was doing that for a while too. So if you get a real alarm clock, and you can let your teen choose the alarm clock, they can let you know if they want one that will wake them up to the radio or nature sounds or, you know, whatever, or if they just want that big bad buzzer or whatever, you know, would work for them. That can help to promote good sleep at bedtime by keeping those electronics away. Let's take a few more questions.
Margaret says, do you have any recommendations on starting a 7-year-old on magnesium to prevent migraines?
That's a great question, Margaret, and I would recommend that if you're thinking about magnesium for your child, that you should talk to your primary care physician about that idea, or your neurologist, to see what they might think about that.
Great. And Lydia says, my 11-year-old gets migraines, as do I. Can they be hereditary?
That's a great question, Lydia. And yes, there is research showing that migraine tends to travel in families. This doesn't mean that your kid can blame you for their migraine, because it's more complicated than that. But there is evidence to support the idea of some genetic link in the transmission of migraines from parents to their children. There's lots of other factors, though, that can impact migraine in children and how much the migraine impacts their life. Sleep is one important factor in that process, because we know that poor sleep can increase risk for next day migraine and can contribute to kind of the persistence of migraine over time.
And Heather writes to ask,
Heather,
can BP changes, blood pressure changes, trigger migraine?
That's a great question, Heather. That's a little bit outside of the scope of what I'm prepared to talk to you about today, because we're really focused on top 5 sleep tips for teens with migraine. So we've talked so far about tip number 1, making an opportunity for your teen to sleep 9 to 10 hours a night. We've talked about tip number 2, setting the same bedtime and wake time every day, so keeping a normal bedtime routine. We've talked about tip number 3, using your bed only for sleep, finding a different place to rest during the day. We've talked about tip number 4, no electronics in the bedroom. We talked about getting your teen an alarm clock. And another strategy that can really help to get electronics in the bedroom is to make a family charging station. So to make a place in your house like in the kitchen or in my house, it's right by the front door where everybody in the family plugs in their devices at nighttime. So that way you know if anybody's cheating and sneaking their devices into their bedroom. And it's also a good way for parents to show to their teens, yeah, I'm with you on this. I'm not going to use my device at night either. We're going to do this together as a family. My number 5 tip, so my final tip, is to talk to your teen about doing a relaxing wind down routine. So I just said, I don't really want you using those electronics at bedtime. A lot of teens and adults are using electronics at bedtime because that's what helps them to wind down. So you got to figure out what could you do instead. So things could be, take a relaxing shower. It could be putting on your PJs and, brushing your teeth, washing your face, having a little snack. It could be reading a book, doing some coloring, doing some stretches. It can also, for some teens, they feel good when they get things ready for the next day. So pick out their clothes, get their lunch ready. That could let them sleep in a little bit later in the morning, which also feels good. So thinking about how can you help your teen do a relaxing wind down routine at bedtime. And you can also, parents, think about doing this for yourself too. You can model for your teen, what are you going to do if you're not on electronics at bedtime? What are you going to do instead to help your body wind down and help cue your body for sleep? So those are my top 5 sleep tips. You guys have been asking great questions. I'm so happy to be chatting with you today and getting to know you. I know there's some of you watching have had migraine today and are not feeling that well, and I really commend you for tuning in to learn what you can do, some ideas about what you can do to help yourself sleep better, help your teen sleep better. You guys are just amazing, and it's just, the biggest honor to be here talking with you today. Any more questions, Joy?
So just a few other things. What if your kid is a night owl?
What if your kid is a night owl? That is a great question.
Yeah. What tips for training them?
What tips for training them? So, if your kid is a night owl, they're probably not going to be super happy to hear my top 5 tips that I've shared with you today. The thing is that really we're shooting for your teen to have that 9 to 10 hour opportunity for sleep every night so that they can get enough sleep to help their bodies rest and heal. That's what sleep does. It helps your body rest. It helps your body heal. It helps prepare your body for the next day. If your teen is a night owl and you have a school schedule that allows them to sleep in later, one strategy is to think about your morning routine and how can you make that morning routine as short as possible so that your teen can sleep in till the absolute last minute. While they would still have time to, they still need to get dressed, they still need to have breakfast before they hit the road to school. But think about, are there things in the morning routine that your teen is doing that would help to delay their wake time so they could sleep in a little bit longer? So sleep kind of works like a candle with 2 ends. If you're trying to give your teen more opportunity for sleep, you either got to let them sleep in later or get them to go to bed earlier. Some teens, the sleep in later part works a little bit easier. I want to thank you. Am I signing off, Joy? Is that what? Yeah? Okay, so I want to thank you so much for your questions and for tuning in today. I'm going to answer more questions on this Facebook post, so we'll be able to hang around and respond to you. Again, I really appreciate you tuning in, and it's just been the time of my life talking to you guys today. I want to wish you a good night's sleep. Coming from me to you from Seattle, Washington. Take care.